Hewlett Packard didn't just build computers. They created the blueprint for Silicon Valley itself. Before Apple had a garage, before Google had an algorithm, HP defined how technology companies should operate. Their story reveals something profound about American innovation. It shows how two engineers with $538 transformed an industry, built a culture that lasted decades, and proved that treating people right could actually generate enormous wealth. This isn't just corporate history. It's the origin story of the modern tech world. January 1939. Palo Alto, California. A small garage behind a modest house on Addison Avenue. Inside, two young engineers huddle over equipment. Bill Hewlett is 25. Dave Packard is 26. They're building an audio oscillator, a device that generates precise sound frequencies. The garage is cold. They have almost no money. But they see something others don't. They believe engineers can build successful companies without sacrificing their values or their technical excellence. That garage would become the birthplace of Silicon Valley. That belief would reshape American business forever. Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard met at Stanford University in 1934. Both studied electrical engineering under Frederick Terman, a professor who would later become known as the father of Silicon Valley. Terman didn't just teach theory. He pushed his students to commercialize their ideas. He believed engineers belonged in business, not just in laboratories. Hewlett and Packard became friends immediately. They shared a love of hiking, camping, and solving technical problems. More importantly, they shared values. Both believed in hard work, integrity, and treating people with respect. After graduation, they went separate ways. Packard worked at General Electric in New York. Hewlett pursued graduate studies at MIT. But Terman kept writing to them. He urged them to return to California and start a company together. He even helped arrange jobs for them at local firms to keep them in the area. By 1938, both men were back in Palo Alto. They rented that garage from Dave's landlord for $45 a month. They also rented the house, where Dave and his new wife Lucille lived upstairs. The garage became their workshop. They needed to decide what to build. The electronics industry in 1939 was dominated by large corporations like General Electric, RCA, and Western Electric. Small companies rarely succeeded. Most engineers worked for big firms their entire careers. But Hewlett and Packard believed they could compete by focusing on quality and innovation. They started with audio oscillators because Bill had developed a new design during graduate school. Traditional oscillators cost several $100s and weren't very stable. Bill's design used a small light bulb as a feedback element. This made the device more stable and much cheaper to produce. They needed capital. Each man contributed $269. That's roughly $5,000 in today's money. Not much to start a business. They bought used equipment, salvaged parts, and built everything themselves. Dave handled business operations and manufacturing. Bill focused on product design and engineering. They complemented each other perfectly. Dave was methodical, organized, and business-minded. Bill was creative, intuitive, and willing to take technical risks. This partnership would define the company for decades. They also needed a name. Should it be Hewlett Packard or Packard Hewlett? They flipped a coin. Hewlett won. The company became Hewlett Packard, though everyone would eventually call it HP. That coin toss, random and meaningless in itself, created one of the most recognizable brands in technology. But first, they needed customers. Their first product, the Model 200A audio oscillator, sold for $54.50. This was less than one-fifth the cost of competing devices. More importantly, it worked better. Their breakthrough came in 1939. Walt Disney Studios was producing Fantasia, an ambitious animated film that required a revolutionary sound system. Disney needed 8 audio oscillators to test and calibrate the speakers. They tried HP device and loved it. Disney ordered 8 units. Then they ordered more. This single customer gave HP credibility. If Disney trusted them, other companies would too. By the end of 1939, HP had generated over $5,000 in revenue. Not enough to get rich, but enough to prove their concept worked. World War II changed everything. The United States military needed sophisticated electronic equipment for radar, communications, and weapons systems. HP pivoted to defense work. They designed and manufactured microwave signal generators, radar jammers, and artillery shell fuses. Revenue exploded. By 1943, HP employed 200 people. Revenue exceeded $1 million annually. But Hewlett and Packard didn't forget their values. Even during wartime, when labor was scarce and they could have exploited workers, they maintained high standards. They paid well, treated employees with respect, and refused to compromise on quality. The war ended in 1945. Many defense contractors struggled to transition back to civilian markets. HP thrived. They had built a reputation for reliability and innovation. More importantly, they had developed organizational capabilities. They knew how to hire talented people, manage complex projects, and scale production. They also had capital to invest in new products. The post-war period brought enormous opportunities. Universities and corporations needed electronic measurement equipment. The electronics industry itself was expanding rapidly. HP was perfectly positioned to capitalize. But Hewlett and Packard faced a critical decision. They could remain a small, specialized company focused on audio oscillators. Or they could expand into other areas of electronic measurement. Most companies stayed in their lane. Diversification was risky. New products required research and development. They might fail. But HP chose expansion. They believed electronic measurement would become increasingly important as technology advanced. They were right. Over the next 2 decades, HP introduced hundreds of new products. Frequency counters, wave analyzers, voltmeters, oscilloscopes, and countless other instruments. Each product addressed a specific engineering need. This diversification revealed HP's first major competitive advantage: systematic innovation. They didn't rely on individual genius or lucky breakthroughs. They built a machine for generating new products. Every engineer spent time talking to customers, understanding their problems, and developing solutions. HP encouraged experimentation. If an engineer had an idea, they could build a prototype and test it. If it worked, HP would manufacture it. If it failed, no one got punished. This culture of experimentation became legendary. Engineers loved working at HP because they had freedom to explore. HP also invested heavily in research and development. By the 1950s, they were spending over 10% of revenue on R&D. Most companies spent 2 or 3%. This investment paid off. HP engineers filed hundreds of patents. They published papers in technical journals. They collaborated with universities. This created a virtuous cycle. The best engineers wanted to work at HP. Better engineers produced better products. Better products generated more revenue. More revenue funded more research. Competitors couldn't match this pace of innovation. The company also developed a unique approach to talent. In the early 1950s, most corporations treated workers like interchangeable parts. Factory workers clocked in, performed repetitive tasks, and clocked out. White-collar workers had slightly more autonomy but still faced strict hierarchies and rigid rules. HP rejected this model. They believed employees were their most valuable asset. They implemented policies that seemed radical at the time. Profit sharing, stock options, flexible schedules, and open communication. They called it the HP Way. The HP Way wasn't just slogans on a wall. It was a set of principles that guided every decision. First, trust and respect for individuals. HP assumed employees wanted to do good work. They gave people autonomy and held them accountable for results, not hours worked. Second, these principles created remarkable loyalty. HP turnover rate was a fraction of industry averages. Engineers stayed for entire careers. This stability compounded over time. Experienced employees mentored newcomers. Knowledge accumulated. The company got smarter every year. Competitors could hire away individual engineers, but they couldn't replicate HP culture. This became another competitive advantage, perhaps the most durable one. The 1950s and 60s saw HP geographic expansion. They opened their first facility outside Palo Alto in 1957, a manufacturing plant in Loveland, Colorado. Why Colorado? Lower costs, access to talent from local universities, and room to grow. This began a pattern HP would repeat. They decentralized operations, giving each division autonomy while maintaining cultural coherence. By the 1960s, HP had facilities across the United States and was expanding internationally. International expansion required adaptation. HP entered Europe in the early 1950s, establishing operations in Switzerland and Germany. These markets had different business cultures, regulations, and customer needs. HP could have imposed American methods. Instead, they hired local managers, adapted products for local markets, and built relationships with local universities and businesses. This flexibility paid off. By the 1970s, international sales accounted for over half of HP revenue. They weren't just an American company that exported products. They were a global company with deep roots in multiple markets. But HP faced serious competition. Companies like Tektronix, Keithley, and Fluke competed in electronic instruments. IBM dominated computing. Japanese firms like Sony and Matsushita were rising. HP needed sustained advantages to survive. They found three. First, breadth of product line. While competitors specialized, HP offered comprehensive solutions. A lab could buy all its equipment from HP. This created switching costs and customer loyalty. Second, technical superiority. HP instruments were consistently more accurate, reliable, and innovative. Third, customer relationships. HP salespeople were often engineers themselves. They understood customer problems and could recommend solutions. This consultative approach built trust. The company also benefited from network effects. As more engineers used HP instruments, HP products became industry standards. University labs trained students on HP equipment. Those students entered industry expecting to use HP products. Textbooks referenced HP specifications. This created a self-reinforcing cycle. Standards are powerful competitive advantages because they are nearly impossible to dislodge. Even if competitors built superior products, customers stuck with HP because switching meant retraining people and rewriting procedures. The 1960s brought HP entry into computing. This decision would transform the company. In 1966, HP introduced the HP 2102A, a small computer designed for scientists and engineers. This wasn't a general-purpose mainframe like IBM products. It was specialized, meant to control instruments and analyze data. HP called it a desktop computer, though it weighed 40 pounds and cost nearly $5,000. Still, it was revolutionary. Scientists could now process data in their own labs instead of sending it to centralized computing facilities. The 2102A succeeded beyond expectations. HP sold over 40,000 units over 5 years. More importantly, it opened new markets. HP began developing computers for business applications, medical equipment, and industrial control systems. By the early 1970s, computing accounted for 20% of HP revenue. But this expansion created tension. HP culture emphasized engineering excellence and innovation. Computing required different skills, software development, systems integration, and customer support. Some HP engineers worried the company was losing its identity. Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard navigated this carefully. They maintained HP core values while adapting to new markets. They organized the company into divisions, each with profit and loss responsibility. Divisions competed with each other but shared resources and knowledge. This structure balanced autonomy with coordination. It allowed HP to move into computing without abandoning instruments. It also preserved the entrepreneurial culture that made HP successful. Division managers acted like small business owners. They could make quick decisions without bureaucratic approval. The 1970s brought the personal computer revolution. In 1972, HP introduced the HP-35, the first handheld scientific calculator. This product changed computing forever. Before the HP-35, engineers used slide rules or large desktop calculators. The HP-35 fit in a pocket and could perform complex calculations. It cost $395, expensive but affordable for professionals. HP sold tens of thousands immediately. Engineers loved it. It became a status symbol. Owning an HP calculator meant you were a serious engineer. HP followed with dozens of calculator models. The HP-65, introduced in 1974, was programmable. Users could write small programs to automate repetitive calculations. The HP-41, introduced in 1979, was even more powerful. It could connect to printers and other devices. These calculators generated enormous profits. They also reinforced HP brand as the company engineers trusted. But HP missed the bigger opportunity. While they focused on calculators for professionals, Apple and others were building personal computers for consumers. HP eventually entered the PC market, but they were late. In 1972, Dave Packard retired as CEO to serve in government. Bill Hewlett became chairman. John Young, who had joined HP in 1958, became CEO. This transition was significant. For the first time, HP would be led by someone other than its founders. Young faced enormous challenges. The computer industry was changing rapidly. IBM dominated mainframes. New competitors like Apple, Microsoft, and Sun Microsystems were emerging. HP needed to evolve while preserving its culture. Young succeeded remarkably. Under his leadership, HP revenue grew from $3 billion to $13 billion over 10 years. Young made several critical decisions. First, he pushed HP deeper into computing. He increased investment in computer research and development. He acquired companies with complementary technologies. He built partnerships with software firms. Second, he maintained HP instrument business. While competitors exited, HP stayed committed. This decision paid off. Instruments remained profitable and generated cash to fund computer investments. Third, he preserved the HP way. Even as the company grew to over 100,000 employees, Young insisted on maintaining HP values and culture. But the 1980s brought crisis. HP Computer Division struggled. They had multiple incompatible product lines. The HP 3000 for business computing. The HP 9000 for technical computing. Desktop computers running MS-DOS. Workstations running Unix. Customers were confused. Developers faced fragmentation. HP was competing with itself. Young recognized the problem. In 1989, HP announced a major consolidation. They would unify their systems around a new architecture called Precision Architecture RISC, or PA-RISC. This was bold. It meant abandoning legacy products and risking customer backlash. The consolidation succeeded but took years. HP gradually migrated customers to new systems. They provided tools to convert old software. They offered incentives and support. By the mid-1990s, HP had a coherent computing strategy. But they had lost momentum. Competitors like Sun, IBM, and Dell had captured market share. HP needed another transformation. That transformation came from an unexpected source: printers. HP had entered the printer market in 1984 with the HP LaserJet. This product became one of the most successful in company history. The laserjet. By the late 1990s, printers generated over 40% of HP operating profit despite representing less than 20% of revenue. The business model was brilliant. HP sold printers at low margins or even losses. They made enormous profits on ink and toner cartridges. This razor and blades model created recurring revenue. Once customers bought HP printers, they needed HP cartridges. Switching brands meant buying new printers. This lock-in effect generated billions in profit annually. But HP faced strategic questions. Were they an instrument company, a computer company, or a printer company? Could they be all three? In the late 1990s, investors pressured HP to focus. Many believed HP should spin off instruments or exit computing. The stock price stagnated. Competitors like Dell were growing faster. HP board decided they needed new leadership. In 1999, they hired Carly Fiorina as CEO. This was historic. Fiorina became the first woman to lead a Dow 30 company. Fiorina brought energy and vision. She believed HP needed to think bigger. She wanted HP to compete with IBM as a full-service technology provider. She pushed aggressive marketing, something HP had traditionally avoided. She reorganized the company, consolidating divisions and centralizing decision-making. Most controversially, she pursued the acquisition of Compaq Computer. This deal, announced in 2001, was massive. Compaq was one of the largest PC manufacturers. The acquisition would make HP the #1 PC seller globally. It would also give HP greater scale in servers and services. The Compaq acquisition was contentious. Walter Hewlett, Bill Hewlett's son and HP board member, opposed it. He argued that PCs were a low-margin commodity business. The acquisition would dilute HP focus and destroy shareholder value. He launched a proxy fight to block the deal. This pitted him against Fiorina and the rest of the board. The battle was bitter and public. It exposed divisions within HP and the Hewlett and Packard families. Ultimately, shareholders narrowly approved the acquisition. HP and Compaq merged in 2002. The merger was rocky. Integrating two large companies is always difficult. HP had to consolidate operations, eliminate redundancies, and merge cultures. Thousands of employees lost jobs. Product lines were rationalized. Some Compaq products disappeared. Others were rebranded. The integration took years and cost billions. But it achieved some goals. HP became the largest PC seller globally. They gained scale in servers and enterprise services. They could compete more effectively with IBM and Dell. However, PC margins remained thin. The business generated revenue but little profit. Fiorina's tenure ended in 2005. The board forced her out amid disappointing financial results and continued controversy. Mark Hurd became CEO. Hurd was an operations expert, focused on efficiency and execution. He streamlined operations, reduced costs, and improved profitability. Under Hurd, HP financial performance improved dramatically. Revenue grew. Margins expanded. The stock price recovered. Hurd also pushed into new areas. HP acquired EDS, a services company, for nearly $14 billion. This gave HP capabilities in consulting and IT outsourcing. But HP continued to struggle with identity. Were they a PC company, a printer company, a server company, or a services company? Each business had different economics, competitive dynamics, and customer needs. Managing this complexity was difficult. The PC business faced intense competition from Dell and Asian manufacturers. Margins continued to decline. The printer business remained profitable but growth slowed. The services business competed with IBM, Accenture, and offshore firms. Servers faced competition from Dell, IBM, and increasingly, cloud providers like Amazon. Hurd's tenure also ended controversially. In 2010, he resigned amid a scandal involving expense reports and a relationship with a contractor. Leo Apotheker became CEO. Apotheker lasted less than a year. He proposed spinning off the PC business and acquiring software company Autonomy for over $11 billion. The board initially supported these moves but reversed course after investor backlash. Apotheker was forced out. Meg Whitman became CEO in 2011. This marked HP's fourth CEO in 6 years. The instability damaged HP reputation and employee morale. Whitman faced enormous challenges. HP stock had declined significantly. Employee morale was low. Customers were uncertain about HP direction. Competitors were gaining market share. Whitman stabilized the situation. She improved communication, made tough decisions on product lines, and restructured operations. She also addressed the Autonomy acquisition, which had become a disaster. HP wrote down nearly $9 billion, acknowledging they had dramatically overpaid. This was one of the worst acquisitions in tech history. It damaged HP credibility and financial position. In 2015, Whitman made a bold decision. She split HP into two companies. HP Incorporation would focus on PCs and printers. Hewlett Packard Enterprise would focus on servers, storage, networking, and services. This separation addressed the identity crisis. Each company could focus on distinct markets with different strategies. HP Incorporation could optimize for consumer and small business markets. HPE could focus on enterprise customers. The split was completed in November 2015. It marked the end of HP as a unified company. The split revealed deeper truths about technology markets. Vertical integration, once a competitive advantage, had become a liability. The PC business had different economics than enterprise computing. Combining them created complexity without synergy. By separating, each company could move faster and allocate resources more effectively. This was an admission that bigger wasn't always better. Scale mattered in some markets but not others. Specialization could trump diversification. These lessons applied broadly beyond HP. Looking back, HP's story reveals patterns about how great companies are built and how they struggle to adapt. HP succeeded initially because they combined technical excellence with human values. They proved you could build a successful company while treating people well. They showed that innovation could be systematic, not dependent on individual genius. They demonstrated that culture matters as much as strategy. The HP way wasn't just nice rhetoric. It created competitive advantages that lasted decades. Low turnover, high morale, and strong collaboration made HP more innovative and efficient. But HP later struggles show how difficult sustaining excellence is. The same culture that drove success also created challenges. HP consensus-driven decision-making slowed them down as markets accelerated. Their focus on engineering excellence sometimes blinded them to market realities. Their loyalty to employees made workforce reductions difficult even when necessary. Their reluctance to centralize authority created fiefdoms and duplication. As the company grew larger and more complex, the HP way became harder to maintain. Values that worked for a company of 10,000 employees didn't scale to 100,000. HP also faced the classic innovator dilemma. Their instrument business was profitable, so they were reluctant to cannibalize it. Their printer business generated enormous cash, creating complacency. Their PC business had scale but low margins, trapping them in a commodity market. Each business made sense individually, but together they pulled HP in different directions. Leaders struggle to allocate resources and set priorities. This is a common challenge for diversified companies. Specialization allows focus, but diversification spreads risk. Finding the right balance is difficult.